Holy shit, folks! I didn't see you there. You scared me. Welcome back. We got somebody is in the house tonight. We're going to be talking about some funny stuff, some not so funny stuff. We'll see. We're going to be commiserating over life. Adam X Lupus in the house. What's going on, brother?
Hey, just usual stuff. Pushing the envelope, riding the fringe, and trying to make sense of this crazy world we're rolling in right now.
Isn't it something? Isn't it?
It's at lightning speed. I'm like, it's a good thing to be plugged into the internet and all these avenues of information, but sometimes it's like it's a little overwhelming. And currently, right now, I'm completely overwhelmed. And trying to make sides and sense of where we're going as a collective. To kind of go to that collective mindset. It's like we're on a spaceship. And I always think of I'm in the United States. I think of Canada as just another door on that ship. Or I go to Mexico, and that's just another door. I kind of don't look at borders. I kind of really look at it as a collective, as a society, and where we're propelling through space and where we're going. And what is that going to look like in 100 years? Are they going to look back at us and just die laughing that we worship plastic and we decimated the environment all for some made-up numbers and a machine that gave us what?
Well, it's for these cushy feelings of so that a billionaire could have nice things made out of alligator skins or whatever weird, pathetic, fucking perverted shit that they're into. But the fact is, billionaires, the amount of good they feel is totally comparable to a hobo with a bottle of wine. You can be happy with very, very little wine. But you need all the shit. You need to ruin the fucking biosphere in order to satiate your self, right?
I think it's a power struggle. I was really struggling with that today. Thinking of all these regional or room to room conflicts that we're having. It's really a dichotomy of a power struggle of those that don't have and those that have, and those that have power, and then don't have power. Those that the billionaire class and the non-billionaire class. You're just we're at a serious black and white moment. And I think we all feel that. I think we feel it more so than any other generation. It's we look at the older generation, the boomers. They're a generation that's hated by the great generation before them, and then 3 generations after. So we're not looking them for advice anymore, and we're kind of in this: do we placate from history, or do we repeat history, or have we learned from history and move forward? I think maybe you said it, and I really gravitated to it on one of your talks of you can't really just throw somebody right into the deep end of veganism because it's such a cognitive dissonance from the reality in which they live that you're going to block the progression to a more compassionate modality, right? So it's have we as a collective pushed to a modality that is more sympathetic and less regional? And why at these levels will we never understand this billionaire class? And is it because it's psychotic versus non-psychotic? Is it that we lack empathy at one point, but we have empathy for another?
Or does the money corrupt you at any given random person, given that amount of power would surely collapse under the weight of it, whether it's Kurt Cobain blowing his brains out because he understood that he was in a hypocritical spot, or the people that just take the money and go, oh yeah, I'm buying steaks and fucking champagne. Fuck poor people.
Yeah, and it's in that mentality, you're really shitting where you sleep. It's can you not see, even we're all taught in school. I mean, from around the world, there's this web of life, right? You can't separate yourself from death. It's inevitable, right? I can't separate myself from an action that is going to happen at a grocery store or at a stoplight with somebody. These actions are going to happen. But how best do we do them so it's better for the collective and not ruin the web of life and the web of trust, And I really can't rationalize, and this is maybe my own cognitive dissonance, rationalize these people, these that have no empathy and only drive on greed. Because at a point, greed, it's got to wash away. I mean, we have so many sports stars that make billions. they get to a point where like you're done. You know, like you've made it. Like when do you turn around and be like, I've made it. I'm now going to make sure that India is doing better. That not to say India is doing bad, but I mean other countries or other impoverished nations or communities, even local communities, are brought up. You know, like when do you go like, I'm going to stop shitting in my bed? You know, at what point does that happen?
It's a crash and burn mentality. I think that a lot of these cats know. They might say they're good Christians and they go to church and they believe in the afterlife, but in reality, I think they probably know that they're only here for a short time, not here for a long time. I'm here for a good time. But I think really, I mean, they probably understand that, like it's primitive. I think it's reptilian brain. Like they're really only concerned with the most primitive of impulses and satiating. They just want salt and oil rubbed all over their mouth and eat it, and they want to hump things and they want to. That's it. I don't think, but we dress it up and make it fancier, and we say we have all this bureaucracy and we have all this beautiful architecture and we have these complicated systems and complicated technology like smartphones or whatever, and singing fish, but. That's what I think. I've come to realize this is.
You really want to just put it? It's almost nihilist to me because I could get behind that in that like it's egoless consumption of the reptilian brain. Yeah. But then I go like, what about the legacy part? You know, like all these. I mean, I've worked in corporate environments, and they really quote some of these stoic people. They quote like Albert Einstein. They quote these people like even they quote like Steve Jobs. Like they themselves want to leave an iconic imprint of their legacy, right? And you're like, you know, in like even if you look at the Carnegie Mellon Foundation, right? They fund all these museums. They fund all the art world. That was after they made billions, right? And but if you look at their legacy of destruction, enslavement, it's just like it'll never be even.
So what is the deal? So you're right, because the legacy thing is a big deal for them. It's like the consolation prize for not living forever. They're like, okay, at least we'll build a fucking museum after you and make a statue of you. But then don't they care about their kids? Like if you're taking
they claim they do. They claim I know that's really, like I'm like it's this gets back to the children. Like it's like what's going on in Palestine is fucking horrific. It's fucking horrific, right? Yeah. But at the same time, what's going on in a cacao farm is probably just as horrific for children. Same with the mining of for lithium and cobalt and all these and yet and I'm not playing it down at all.
No.
Children should not go through this level of suffering for the greed and destruction and colonization of a region. And it's like how do these people have children and see the after effects of what they're doing on other children is mind blowing. And here again, it's like you can't. Why are you shitting where you eat? Like I just don't understand that as a collective species. So that modality again is the modality of us going forward. Collectively getting better, or is it collectively, to your point, getting more hedonistic? Are we just driven on these primal more and more, quicker and quicker? I mean, there's a lot of evidence for that.
Well, you would think that we as the majority are not so horrible. We're easily misled, yes, and misled on purpose. But the people in charge, I don't know. I think that they're actively trying to subvert us and trying to make us that way, dumb us down. They take away our education. They take away all this stuff. And then when they go and do something like create microplastics, they can just spend a bunch of money lobbying to try to squirm their way out of any accountability for that and any regulation on top of it. And so that's, I think, one of the greatest hurdles is that this late stage capitalism, like into the game of Monopoly, where homeboys got all the fucking shit bought, and all you're doing is going around paying rent and going to jail, because everybody that's left on Earth is now just poor, except for this 1% or whatever. I don't know, man. There's a possibility this thing could go super dystopian, or we could have a luxurious kind of communism. We could go either way.
I don't think communism it's wishful thinking. I really do. It's just that we have that human nature again. Communism's good if we have a modality that we're all on, but we're like going back to your saying, it's like there's tons of evidence that the lower class people help and give to charity, majority compared to the billionaire class, right? So we know that us, this lower 99%, are willing to help each other. We're willing to go out of our way. We're even willing to take out of our own mouths and give it to somebody else. So at a fundamental core, even though they've disenfranchised us from the government, they've dumbed down our education, they've polluted the environment, all for greed and better workers and more obedient citizens, we still look at each other and will help. We still look at each other and come together. You know, and you go like, okay, so fundamentally, if we were all like that and we could eliminate the psychopaths that draw power and live for manipulation and isolation and resource grabbing or hoarding, is that I don't think communism or socialism will work. You know what I'm saying? You have like, this is why corruption is such a big thing in a lot of those Eastern blocs, and even in seriously, I've been throughout China. I've been through other ones. I've slipped a few dollars, and it is A-okay. Like, I can't do that to a police officer. If I did that in Germany, oh my God, like no way. No way, you know, and then that's I think there's a fundamental problem with going to that way. Unless we collectively say, you know what, the governor of this power that's going to distill down to us would be some kind of AI Mao,
right? And this is the only real possibility is that when you supplement where the people would be with robots, so that there's an agreed upon thing that can't be subverted or whatever. Because power corrupts at any level. You get the local town sheriff or whatever. He's corrupt as fuck. Give him a gun and a badge all of a sudden, or any responsibility, and people run off with it. It happened in the Soviet Empire. The whole empire at the end collapsed. They were selling cars out the back door. The place bureaucrats weren't working. There wasn't a great incentive to work. They were overextended from the Soviet war in Afghanistan, and everybody got disillusioned. But it's happening here too under capitalism. So you're right. That's why I don't have a political dogma. I just think every time I go get into these kind of discussions, Marxism, and I just back up and say, well, what am I talking about? We're fucking doomed. What the fuck am I trying to pontificate about?
Well, we're not doing, because we've been doing it for so long. You know, it's like really, we've been doing this a long time, people. Like, we've been here a long time. I don't, you believe in the traditional BC calendar, you believe in like some flat earth calendar. Either way, we've all been here a very, very long time. And we've somehow collectively been repeating ourselves. Like, there's the power struggle of resources, and I'm taking it from somebody who is less powerful and can't stop me from taking those resources. I don't think we've really, at the core, fundamentally grown out of that. And I'm always hopeful that we would. You know, that we would get to a level of like this utopia, like this futurism that we've all been sold. That we have flying cars, we all have a UBI, that like it's about progression of the heart and empathy and love and all that other stuff of cleaning water and electricity has been solved.
Yeah.
And we still can't.
But it doesn't.
We still can't even
look like it's going that way.
In the world, you know, like
there are vast cross sections of people out there who like authority figures and don't want to make their own decisions, and they are sycophantic. They want to look up and be praised by a higher authority figure. They like rigid hierarchies. I never got that.
Oh, never, not me either. But you're right. There is a place for it, but that's just a communal, agreed upon set of rules. You know?
Yeah.
I just
Well, some
But
good things have come out of social, like if we've changed the social fabric of society for the better before. Like, so with this vegan thing, I really hope it's like slavery. Like, people look back and go, oh, yeah, that was crazy. Shouldn't have done that.
yeah, no, it's been so long. It's like my mother called me. She's like, oh my God, they have plant-based sausage at my store. Like, I'm like, it's like, for me, that's a win. You know, like, I'm like, yes, we made another flag inside, you know, a Mars. It might as well be one of these supermarkets, you know, to turn the idea to compassion for these animals. Because I just think here again, we'll go to the dichotomy or the cognitive dissonance of humans, and like say, like, I could have a pet and say that I love animals, but I'm going to slaughter the exact same species and put it on my plate and eat it. You're like, how's the difference between you, Rufus, your love of your life, that you're like got into sweaters and you're combing and shampooing and have a stroller for down at the park, you know, any different than the one that you just paid some dude to slice open alive, you know, like these I think what's happened in the agriculture world of banning videotaping of the processes is another step farther away from agriculture itself, right? And this idea of, food to fork or farm to fork, whatever you want to say, like, we are so far away that we don't care what's in the chips anymore. We don't care if the cauliflower's grown in a field or in a warehouse. We don't care if the chicken is grown in a warehouse or a field. We just don't care. We've been so removed from it and then shown all this fear propaganda of how scary the world is to keep us in, to your point, that reptilian sympathetic mindset and grabbing for just dopamine hits that are going to keep me going. And I just can't deal with that, though, because I got to pay rent, and my rent's gone up 25% in just 3 years, and my salary hasn't. You know, so it's just like we're at this crux in a lot of things, and I don't want to shame people for not being like hardcore vegan like right now. And I love that we're making inroads and inroads and inroads. And I think, to your point, like, slavery still is going on today. We have still not ended slavery amongst human species. So, how do we, as vegans and people who want equality for all, everybody, equal rights for all, how do we then go, well, you're already enslaving children, like stop the cows and dogs. They're like, we can't even get them to do that. You see what I'm saying?
Look, definitely, and I'm a cynic on all counts, but there's one thing that does make me optimistic about the progress that we're making with the vegan diets, is because if for a selfish reason that these people want a healthier diet that's going to make them live longer, make their hearts feel better, have lower inflammation markers, all this shit, that's going to be the one thing that pushes people to stop eating animal carcasses. You know what I mean?
No, what's going to profitability? If I could feed the same amount of soy to you and not the cow and deal with all that, and I could get you to do this, profitability. Right. Profitability.
Well, that's the problem now, is because it's all skewed because of fucking subsidies, man, where they're giving tax money to the beef growers or whatever, and so it's not 100. A fair game. And beans are the thing. Everybody's like, you got to eat all that processed Beyond Burger shit. I'm like, no, you eat fucking beans, various types of beans. And if the more you look into beans, they fix nitrogen in the soil. They're fucking magical.
They're magical.
Let's start like the Bean Institute or something that's like, and don't call it vegan diet, right? You say we're on the bean diet.
Fava beans, dude. I was like blown away at fava beans. I was like, all these.
Oh, right.
Because I'm like borderline in this weightlifting world, because for lupus, like, they told me not to do all this bodybuilding, don't work out. And then on the vegan world, there's no strong vegans. So I was just like, oh, you know what? Let me just do this. And I've just progressively gotten bigger and stronger and stronger. And all these meatheads are all worried about protein and clean sources of protein with zero fava beans. I was like, oh my God, a can of fava beans is like 100 something grams of protein. You're like, that's insane. That's just an insane amount of protein in a can.
Yeah.
You're like, there's zero argument at this point for you not to switch. And even to my point of getting into mainstream, it's profitability for these organizations. Like when they finally started looking at the numbers of what it costs to distribute a Beyond Burger versus get the cow from the field to the slaughterhouse to the processing it's triple the resources. They're like, well, Jim, we need to make more money.
Yeah. It's like what Edison or somebody invented or some guy gave money to Tesla and Edison there or somebody, and they said, well, figure out how to do the electricity. And the one guy came back and said, well, where do you plug it in to run the meter? Because Tesla had this idea of free electricity. It's free for everybody. And he's like, no, we don't do that.
Yeah. No,
some story, I forget.
Was one of the falling parts. Yeah, we use this technology now for Wi-Fi. So it's just like...
Yeah.
So we learned to monetize it. It just took us a while to monetize it, and then once we monetize it, it's going to be the way. I mean, it's just unfortunate that we're still dealing with some of these, let's say, morals or these dogmas. I'd say more of these dogmas. So I'm really interested in this Christ conspiracy that's done by the Seaspiracy and Cowspiracy guys. I want to see if because there's a lot of people who, I live according to this book, and this book says it's okay. And I'm like, you really look at the book, it doesn't. And you're like, I don't know where you're getting that. I don't know who told you that, but your book is pretty clear. And there's a ton of it that's very plant-based, like more plant-based than I think anybody wants to talk about. And I think the Christ conspiracy is going to directly take on that. So I'm really curious to see that.
Yeah, you haven't seen it yet.
No, I haven't. Have you?
No, I haven't seen it either.
Yeah.
I can't. Well, sometimes I don't do a lot of the documentaries because I'll just get fucking mad. But I see animal cruelty every day because I'm friends with vegans, so I see the worst of it already. So, yeah, dude, you can't be friends with a vegan without saying, "Oh God, Jesus," and then you become really, really vegan. You're like, I'm not even gonna look at a bumblebee.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, but like, if you ever get the Jainism, like hardcore Jains in India, where they don't wear clothes, they walk backwards, they have silk on their feet, silk over their mouth, so if anything goes in, it's having the soft, most compassionate way of death for the micro level, and they eventually starve to death because, they tend to only eat fruit that's fallen. So you're like, there's levels, like how it's like that Simpsons, like I compost my pockets, so I'm a level 7 vegan. When I start to walk backwards and I've covered my mouth with silk so nobody gets hurt, I think I'm level 12 and ascended.
Do you even pocket mulch?
I don't pocket mulch anymore. I used to. Yeah. It just gets stinky. Now I ferment kombucha in my car, so
That's good.
Water bottles.
Yeah. There's beer. There's beer they brew with like the sweat of they like zips and reindeer urine.
There's all sorts of stuff they make these fermented things from. Yeah. I've heard.
Are you a big fermented guy? Do you got mushrooms and all this other shit too?
So that's a great question. So there's a long time. So I started this whole veganist thing like 20 years ago, like we said, and I got through there by myself, and then my Catholic priest, after I asked a bunch about what the Bible was saying about animals and eating, he's like, dude, he literally was like, dude, you sound Buddhist. And I didn't even know what Buddhist was. So then I like found Buddhism, dove down that. I can't believe Catholic priests even put in that direction. It was great.
I know. He's like, wrote you a script. He's like, I'm going to send you to a specialist.
Yeah, he's like, look, dude, like I can't answer that. You got to go. You're sounding like you don't belong here. And I was confirmed. I went through a whole catechism, the whole nine, confirmation, the whole. I was like hardcore. And but I was just like, wait, it says we have to take care of them. So why am I eating them? And like it says that like there's so much in there. There's just like from the linen that you wear to how you cut your hair, it's all there. And so that drove me to Buddhism, or he drove me to Buddhism, and then eventually hardcore music got me over into the Hare Krishna movement, and then through the Crow Bags, and then in East Bay, Berkeley, that Berkeley temple there is like a big, like hardcore, like center, basically like an epicenter. So it was like punk rock music meets religion based off of nonviolence and the worship of cows. And I'm simplifying it to the nth degree, and some other people are to be offended, but I was converted into ISKCON, and I was a Hare Krishna for 13 years. And so,
holy shit,
yeah, like chanting every day, the whole nine, lived in ashrams. Like, I went deep, dude. Like, I was like in it, and I could never, if the cow was one of my mothers, and most of the milk that we're getting still at the temple is coming from not our own cows, because there's very few, cowherds or govindas in America that are having. So it's just like I couldn't rationalize. We're still causing suffering. We're actually causing. It's like I can't. So like I had to like separate that. Sorry, when I was circling that diatribe, I got lost there. But like I've just been like stuck on this idea that like we're all one. You know what I'm saying? Like we're earthlings. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's where I got stuck. And I think my worldview is completely on that. From, like I said, like we're all on this fucking spaceship,
Yeah.
And like,
I mean, as you get older too, you learn about certain aspects of biology. And did biodiversity ever tickle you as a concept, or we're all everybody's got a job to do, basically? This was a big thing for me.
That we all have a space here in Earth to do.
Well, yeah, like the earthworms are down below. They're taking care of stuff. They're eating the compost and making shit that's going to fertilize the soil. The birds are coming down, eating the thing. The foxes eat. Everything's in balance. Everything has their purpose. Everybody's got their job. Tigers, they eat Indian dudes. Everybody's.
Yeah, but this is going to go back to like, what about mushrooms and fermenting? It's like within and I was going to kind of go there. Is like we're all one. I think what we're not allowed to eat mushrooms. They're considered nightshades, and they grow without the light or the Lord shining on them. So you don't eat things that. But I think that really comes to your point, a biological point of like we learned through evolution not to eat some mushrooms. They killed Jimmy. Like, don't eat that, bro. I think there's a lot of fundamental things there, but. I don't do mushrooms. I do fermented. So full circle there on that one. But then, like the symbiotic relationship between the web of life, I think we are closer to mushrooms than we are to the fox, in the sense of mushrooms connect everything and use everything, just like we're connected to everything and use everything. Mushrooms are there to decompose and grow different things together and give different. It's like they are the bedrock, and I would say we are the stewards. And it's written in a lot of books. Like even the Old Testament says that. Even these lotus. So it's like we are kind of meant here to give love and empathy and kindness, and then we have this mushroom below us that's actually decomposing and driving things and getting nutrients where it needs to go. And mushrooms actually cause
the mycelium. The mycelium network. Yeah. If you have a superhighway that can transport, food and energy to plants and stuff. Yeah. You are essentially the metaphor is that you're a steward of the planet,
That's
in the right
what we're
way.
here for. I mean, it's like we have so much power, and it's evident in the way we use it and abuse this realm and which we're given. It's like why is everything so fragile for us? Because we're so powerful. It's like we'll find a way. There's not even a mountain that's in our way anymore. We're into slamming particles together. we are pretty much the masters of this domain. And like, it's just like, now that you're the master of the domain, what kind of king are you? Like, what kind of king are you? And I look around and I see this modality, I'm like, I don't think we've progressed past the haves and have-nots, and I don't think we ever will until we fundamentally look at the mental health of people. And I hate eugenics, but how we're breeding people, how we're raising people, how we're encouraging the environment. And to this whole child thing, it's like, why is one child in California suburbs worth more than a kid in Africa mining? They're not. They're equal. Why is the bird that I keep in a cage here as my pet any different than a chicken? They're not. They're the same. And like, we could rationalize it. We could subjugate it. We could label it. We could compartmentalize it all we want. But it's really at the fundamental end of the day, it's the same thing. And I think that's a lot of what I think when I'm commenting on your posts. Like, I'm trying to drive home. I'm like, look, like, where's your moral compass? You're like coming out here stabbing about these people, but what about these that are right there, like, and have been there? I mean, know. Like, you're like,
I heard today it was like, these kids' parents should be ashamed of themselves, their kids, for protesting at this thing. It's just, people are dying, man. Children are dying, and they're like, well, some people couldn't graduate, and so they were inconvenienced. I'm like, I don't give a fuck.
I don't give a fuck. I really don't. I really don't. I stop the whole system. If you want to stop it, I'm down. I still believe we have the ultimate control here, and we do. And to your point of dumbing us down, subjugating us, disenfranchising us, is like that. At the end of the day, if we all hoarded 30 days, 90 days of just basic necessities and stop using the systems, they would come burning down, because they need us so bad to pay taxes on the things we're purchasing, to fund the next quarter. If I only buy for one quarter and we don't buy for 2 quarters, that company could go insolvent because they don't have money in their coffers anymore. The way that the supply chain works, the way that manufacturing works, they're buying and selling and moving. They're really not holding and building. There's very few industries that do that. Automotive, maybe, like that's, they're still beholden to chips over there and leathers over there. So even that. So you're like, if we collectively did what Gandhi did, which is a great autobiography. He's controversial now, but good autobiography and a great way to disrupt society. Just like, look, buy what you need, stop purchasing, and walk around and watch what happens. And he brought the largest empire to the knee of a dude in pajamas and a stick. Like, he didn't do anything. And I think like to protest is one thing. It's like, I'm mad. But you have to follow it up with direct action. Like ALF, the Animal Liberation Front. They're like, I'm so tired of hearing stop. They're not going to stop. I'm going to kick in that door and I'm going to open the cages. Watch. Then what?
Yeah.
And like, that's the point. It's like, if you're that upset, get on a plane, fly to that region, and start doing something. I mean, that's how Christians got the Bible around the world. They didn't like it, got on a plane, flew to the middle of some jungle, and did it. They protested first. Like, we're going to bring the book everywhere. Oh, yeah, are you too? And, yeah, he jumped on the plane and did it. You're like, whew, wow, you did that. That's what you do. There's plenty of evidence for that. But just to kick and scream and have a tantrum over one group, and then the next week it's another group, you're not doing anything. You're actually causing a splinter, and you're causing your voice and any other voice to get lost in the sea of crying wolf. We all know that story. The boy that cried wolf.
I've had to write endless articles about the leftists always just miss the point on veganism, where they're all hyped up on equality for this group, not with this all-encompassing idea of what injustice really is and the mechanisms behind it that create these problems. Like, they all come from the same fucking place. Squash that out instead of trying to put out fires everywhere. Just stop starting the motherfuckers, you know?
It's kind of hard when you go to buy something and the taxes you pay funnel into this dark, seedy underworld of alphabet agencies that do the bidding of so many corporations for lobbyists and money, you know, and you're like, here again, how do you fundamentally just stop the train? Because even going to the store and buying something is funding. Like, there's this great, the CIA released it. It's called the Finders Group. And basically the Finders Group hunts down people to give to the CIA, to give to people as bribery. And these people might be children. So you're like, how do I, even if I buy a piece of bubblegum, stop my money to going to fund that? Because they need that CIA asset in another country, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to get his information. You can't. I mean, we don't even think that level. Very few people think to that level. And you're like, like I think it was like 5 years ago, we had the first vegan lobbyist group in America that's now actively lobbying to take away the dairy and meat industry subsidies that make it so cheap. It's like, go ahead, subsidize soy and corn. Yes, that's fed to livestock, but there's a whole, now we're only 5%, but soon we'll be 10% group of Americans that do not agree with this. And we're going to have a problem here. And let's just take this subsidies away and put it towards the things that you can feed your cow to and make that, but let's not make that so cheap anymore. So, because I think it's what we fund every $2. So if the milk's $5, there's $2 to $3 of American funding behind it. So it's really $8 for that gallon. So you're like, that's more than gas. You know, like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
You know, like
a pound of hamburger could cost $30 without subsidies.
Without subsidies, right? So you're like, I'm okay with the subsidies for soy and fava beans, you know, like these things. And as we as vegans start incorporating more and more of these things, besides this soy makes you a girl, you know, it causes, you know, estrogen, and estrogen's bad. It's just like, these things are so antiquated now with data that it's just like, we need to get kind of open it up. Like, well, we don't eat that much soy. Yeah, there's tofu. Yes, there's seitan. But we have all these other things like chickpeas and you know.
I'm onto that black bean tempeh. Oh shit, that shit.
Oh, so good. Tempeh is so good. That's what I'm saying.
Tempeh is my favorite.
High protein, great for the belly. It's easy.
Fermented.
There's so many good ones. And like, you look at these regions of the world, these blue zones as they call them, where people live up in the hundreds.
Right.
It's primary seafood or plant-based if they can't get it, and a little bit of meat here and there. It's not this carnivore diet, you know, and it's not even a carnivore diet.
Isn't that shit bad? Aren't these fucking people insane?
Well, it's funny is the two people that founded it got it going stopped doing it because they were like, look, I was in ketosis all the time. I was mountain climbing and I had a leg cramp that I couldn't get rid of for 2 days. And there I'm stuck, you know, like, okay, there's something to that, you know, like, and now they eat fruit and vegetables and a more omnivore diet and less organs because there's a lot of toxins in organs. I mean, like, that's why they're there, guys. The toxins go there. They don't. Sorry.
Those people go so hard out of their way to do this too. You remember the Liver King too. He was actually.
Oh, he's terrible.
This dude was just eating raw. He's jacked up on steroids.
He's completely on steroids, and then a lot of it, you get parasites. Like, how do you, like, I always think this is a good test for your food. If you cook it, it probably won't kill you, right? Great. If you don't cook it, will it kill you? That's a good baseline, right? If I put chicken out after I've killed it and I don't eat it within the first few seconds, it's going to kill me. I'm going to get bacteria that my body cannot handle.
Right.
But a wolf, a lion, a carnivore could come by a week later. He's like, oh my God, perfect. Body handles it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to cook this thing. You can't call it a carnivore diet. You got to call it an omnivore diet. That's fine. You're an omnivore. We're all omnivores. So as an omnivore, you could substitute one protein source for another and survive. We are made to survive. Like, I have an autoimmune disease. Like, my body is actively killing me, and I'm alive. You know, I'm made to survive. You are made to survive. So when people take their health for granted a lot, part of my immune system and problems is I can't be in the direct sunlight. Like, I'm a vampire. So there are downsides, and yes, I can't do a lot, but I'm thriving as a vegan. I'm thriving as a human, and I'm off all medications, and yet my body is still trying to kill me. So, like, as a fundamental being, as a human species, good luck killing us. We are like cockroaches. We literally like cockroaches. Like, we will find a way. We will milk grass to get water to make it to somewhere. We've gone everywhere. We've figured it out. So it's just like, here again, as kings, how are we ruling our kingdom really is the fundamental crux of my opposition to a lot of our society. It's just funny.
Well, going back, so we're talking about what are the things like you've cut out. Look, I've done the same thing. I've realized I want to be human 2.0. I want to do something that's good and beyond just going beyond veganism. Like, I don't drink coffee anymore because I'm pretty sure little brown kids are the ones getting sprayed with pesticides to get it. I don't do a lot of bananas. Maybe once in the last 8 months, I've bought maybe one rack of bananas. Usually I used to eat bananas all the fucking time. Chocolate, slave labor, whatever. You got to be careful with the coconuts because they got monkeys trying to open coconuts. Whole Foods got busted using monkey labor.
No,
it's just horrific.
Yeah, it just gets to the level of, like, how far do you go? It's just like, when you first get into it, it's like, oh, I'm vegetarian and I'm doing great. And then you're like, I'm not going to wear wool anymore because that's sheep. And then you go down a farther path, and it's just like, to the Jainism, it's just like, I got pretty far. I mean, I got no onions, no garlic, no mushrooms, no chocolate, coffee's out, no animal
no
products.
Garlic. Why the garlic?
Because in a lot of Eastern medicines, it makes you more passionate. It causes a little fire in you.
That's true. That's true.
And they also, anything that gives a pungent smell to you is not something your body wants and is trying to
Interesting.
So your body's actually telling you, get this away, get it out, and that's why we smell of such.
So spicy food would be off the table too.
Yeah, spicy foods are off the table. I eat a little cayenne, but here again with my disease, I can't have a lot of capsaicin or cause my immune system to get inflamed, and then we're going down a path of organ failure. I have SLE, so all my organs are involved. I have seizures, liver, kidney failure, heart inflammation. I have scars on my lung because it attacked my lung. So I can't have I will start to have like an asthma attack if I start to laugh. So inflammation markers like capsaicin and things and nightshades, I've eliminated. So I'm really on a very basic diet and thriving. It's like legumes and rice and quinoa and like sometimes a little broccoli, but even that, it's a little too fibrous. So I stay to the fruit side, a lot of apples, a lot of mango, papaya. So I tend to be on the fruit nut world. So Brazilian nuts. I try to stay away from cashews at all costs because there's a ton of slave labor there, and it's part of the poison oak, poison ivy family. So them husking it, it's just Google cashew farm a cashew you'll start crying.
Damn it.
For people, for these young women in India.
I liked cashews.
I know. That's what I'm saying. The more you open your eyes, the more you get restricted. And then you get to this point of like, well, how far do we want to go? And why do I have to go this far to get away from slavery? Like what is wrong with us that we can't say, you know what? Like this piece of paper that we all rule that is hoarded away by a few isn't the currency. The currency is how well we do each other. Like I don't want to say social credit because I don't think that's the right way, but it's like what is your human credit? Like what is your credit that you're giving for those things that you need and want, right? Because we all love cashew milk, cashew thing. We all love chocolate.
Yeah.
Like how much do you love it? Do you love it enough to enslave a child? And if you're fine with that, that's fine. That's your moral compass. And I think that's the hard thing for a lot of us is to not put our moral dogma and our moral judgment onto other people. But I still think as a collective, we have to look, like you said, what are they going to look back at in 100 years when we started this? Like, what is the next, they're going to look at veganism is the way to go, right? And I say they're going to look at why did we worship plastic so much for, that 100 years? We worshipped destruction of the planet. It was like this generation was just like, you know what, YOLO the planet. I think that's what it's going to be looked at because there's going to be a layer of strata, and on us that's going to be plastic. It's going to be in the earth.
Absolutely.
They're going to go through Antarctica. It's in Antarctica. It's falling in the snows. It's falling everywhere. So it's just like they're going to have this core. There's going to be this layer. They're like, oh my god! And then the women and men now putting plastic in them. They're like these people worship. It's like we ended today, and they dug up 100 years from now. They'd be like these people. Like the Egyptians worship cats and we buried with cats. These people worship plastic. They buried their women with these 2 bags of plastic. This plastic must have been worth everything. You're like, oh no.
That's the George Carlin bit where he says, maybe that's the whole point all along, that humans were just here to make plastic for the earth. That's what the earth wanted us to do. Couldn't make plastic for itself, needed us to do it. We did it, and then we died from ingesting too much of it, and now it's the earth plus plastic.
Yeah, and we're now it's in us. It's like there's how everybody has it in us. Like we all have these forever chemicals in us, and maybe he was right, but still, what is the legacy of this? Because we're gonna thrive, and eventually, as we move to plant-based plastics,
I hope we thrive. But then again, I mean, if we're eating a credit card's worth a week, like that one study said, or like that it has endocrine disrupting properties that it says it does, where they were doing something like testing birds that were eating microplastics, and they ingested it, and then it broke down in their system to where it was making it. So it had endocrine disrupting, which is hormonal, so that they weren't even growing when they were in their puberty, and their wings wouldn't get big enough, and then they couldn't fly for the winter or whatever, and so they just died. So shit like that's going to keep happening. Where
Jesus,
and there's this whole thing about sperm counts. Sperm counts are decreasing like 50% in the last 20 years, or since 1970 or something like this, and it's mostly in the West. And they don't know why, but they think it's forever chemicals is what's going on there.
Yeah,
it's a children of men kind of thing going.
Oh man, that was a great movie and very now
very dark.
Been like 15 years. It's true. It's true. It's like I when I was watching that, I was like, this is no way. Like we are going to progress. Like. We're going to have Back to the Future way of life and utopia and futuristic shit. I was promised that. But actually in reality what we harvested was that, the later. And it's sad. It's like I have a little bit more faith in people. Sometimes my partner's a girl, she says that I have too much empathy or I'm too optimistic with people, And maybe I am, but I still think we want to leave behind a legacy of good. I think this is why veganism is growing. I think this is why these kids now are protesting for Palestine. Like, I know as my generation X, like, we had Rage Against the Machine. So we were all ready to protest all the time. And we come from the hardcore punk rock movement. So we're like, we didn't have devices. We made our own stickers. We made our own t-shirts. And we're going to come to riot. Like, and tell us to stop. Watch what happens. And, like, we got subdued in buying into the boomer way because those are our parents, and pushing this narrative of this neoclassical capitalism on us. And in a way, we got lost, and we made millennials. And the millennials are very interesting, but they're still a little bit into the materialism of the boomers and the X. And this new generation, they've seen us fail. They've seen the booms and the busts very quickly. Like, I don't know your age, but Gen X, we've seen so many booms and busts now that it's just like, and millennials have too. So they're disenfranchised. They know their company that's going to hire them is going to hire them at a pay that's going to feed them, nonetheless going to keep them around longer than 4 or 5 years. So there's no unwritten social contract that they have anything promised to do anything. So we have a very disenfranchised group that's ready, it's primed. Now, what are they primed for is really what we got to watch, you know. And if it's injustice and genocides, I'm way for it. Let's get in there. Let's go this. Let's push it, because we are humans and we need to start talking about these things, and we need to start talking about this as a planet and as Earthlings. And these little micro aggressions and these micro wars that highlight some of the injustice that happen every day, we should capitalize on. We should not let any crisis go unused. You know, let's push it forward. Yeah. And let's push a narrative that incorporates all of us. Because if we say that Palestinians are us, then what injustices are we all going through that's going to stop that from even happening in the first place? Right? Why is that happening in the first place? If we're this great kingdom of human species that reigns this beautiful domain of technology and progression around the world, then why are we leaving other people behind and erasing them? Yeah. Doesn't make sense. Yeah. You know?
Does it? Yeah. Well, they say that there's no correlation between the people that are rich and in high intelligence level. They say some are kind of smart, others not so much, but there's no correlation between intelligence level and people having money. So the people that have tons of power, they're not necessarily the best of the best or more empathetic or... See, and this is the thing, is we constantly, you go into public, you're rubbing elbows with some people that may not just have any, internal monologue or any kind of empathy whatsoever. There's just a lot of people sort of buzzing around on autopilot out there. I think that's true. Yeah, well, just...
Well, I'm not trying to judge. I'm not. But there's people, to your point, that have no internal dialogue and don't imagine words as objects. They just see it as words. They don't have an internal dialogue.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So you have no imagination, and you're only living off the cognitive moment. Like your program in the Tron world, if like you were in Tron, and your program is very simple. You know what I'm saying? And that's fine. That's fine. That is
you're reactive. You're reactive. You just react to stuff.
That's good. That's what you do. You do something, to your point, in the web of life, in human society, that is needed. Because if you weren't there, somebody wouldn't be doing that, and that's okay. But like, don't try to tell me not to think and imagine. Just don't. And I'm not going to tell you not to think and imagine. And I'm not going to tell you not to say or do something unless it directly affects me or hurts me. Right. So do no harm. Right. Speak the way you want. But don't do any harm, no action, no karma. Like, let's just be, right. It's interesting. But then you go into this intelligence conversation, right? And we go like, okay, Ted Kaczynski,
my dude.
I mean, like, really, he took it to the degree that I think a lot of vegans want to go. Like, straight up want to go. Like, they just right. We call him Uncle Ted around these parts.
Yeah, man. I love old
Super
Katie.
intelligent, genius level, figured it all out, and was like, the only way out is living in the woods and destroying technology. And like that there's somebody who's sent by that. Because
goes out to the woods, is enjoying himself, and then goes, well, as long as I can be out here, nobody will bother me, I'm okay. And then what did they do? They paved over his favorite walking spot, and he just fucking was like, that's it. I'm going to start sending out bombs and blowing off people's thumbs. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, you're destroying something I love. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
There's a thin line, right? And like, and he's highly intelligent, taught at Berkeley, like went through the CIA MK Ultra program. I mean, like, this guy is like Nth degree genius and unleashed on society. And what he chose to do was run into the woods, and be like, society has failed and has now failed me, and now I have to do something. But I wasn't going to. But like, I now have got to make this thing a flag. And I'm not saying he's right. I'm not saying ALF is right. I'm not saying, but there's a point that you get where you're just like, this, enough is enough. Like, enough is enough with a regional fight. Enough.
I'll say I like everybody who's stirring the pot in that way. I like the ALF. Fuck it. I like.
No, I do too.
Get hands on. I like Ted Kaczynski.
I do, but I'm not going to be.
I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, I'm rooting for him. I'm like, yeah, like, but here again, it's the David versus Goliath conversation. Everybody loves that, right? We all love the small guy taking on that giant machine.
I thought so, yeah.
We all do, and that's why we all rally behind him. That's why we need, like, somebody to hero, and that's okay. If somebody wants to step up and hero us, then do it. Like, but I don't need a Mao. I don't need a Hitler. I don't want to have, definitely not one of the Clintons or Bushes, like
authoritarian veganism where everybody
like all of a sudden it gets really weird, like really weird.
Yeah.
We're all composting on our back, like
he looked at that chicken. Hang him.
Yeah. He's wearing secondhand wool. That is it. Like, yeah, it's over.
He admitted to craving meat. We're going to send him to the electric chair.
Okay. So what's your stance on, because I'm one of those vegans that's like, obviously for the pre-days of this fake meat batch, like, we had lentil loaves, which was nowhere near like what a meatloaf would be.
Yeah.
And we're talking
more protein. More protein than any man can handle.
Yeah, tofu, nutrition, yeast, and Bragg's is like as close as I'm getting to just eggs. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's totally different. I don't care how you spice it. And like, so what is your take on incorporating or co-opting these meats to sway these non-believers? Yeah,
processed crap.
Like, yeah, how do you feel about the processed crap? Like, infiltrating the normies and bringing them over to veganism.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I think it's capitalism trying to step in between us and an actual decent revolution for health. And then on top of it, you got these charlatans pushing lab-grown meat, which is so fucking weird that, and it's so expensive to make. It's not scalable. Being like. There was a documentary that just came out, The Food Inc. 2, and it's like, it goes and talks about veganism and shit. It's all right. It's a little pandering, but at the same time, they take us into the Impossible Burger place. It's methyl cellulose, which is just a byproduct of making paper that they go down to the mill and they're like, you got any of that stuff? And it looks like wood chips. And then this guy invented this hema iron thing that gives it the meaty taste or whatever. So it's basically just like tree fucking chips and this weird blood paste. So, and then they mix it all together and they compact it and stuff. And when I went vegan, I actually ate quite a few of these goddamn things and they stunk up the whole house. And after a while, I just tasted how bad they were. It helped me. Yeah. It was like the methadone of getting off of meat, It's like, needed the burger or whatever. But yeah, I think it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And the lab grown meat's even worse. And I hope that they don't subsidize that or keep doing that because, yeah, maybe there's no cruelty, but it's so stupid, right? It's like the Ozempic craze too, where you got these people that they don't want to eat right, but they want to look thin. So they want to eat as much as they possibly. I don't understand shooting yourself in the foot and then buying a really high-end advanced kind of Band-Aid for your foot. Just stop shooting yourself in the foot. You wouldn't even have to buy the Band-Aid. Right? It's a little crazy. I mean,
but
am I crazy, man?
You're not crazy. I mean, you made valid points. There's valid points. But then I go like, it is so real. Like one of the first times that I had a Beyond Burger, there was this place in downtown Oakland. It's like Umami Burger or something.
Okay.
And they had it, you know. So I was like, okay, I want to go there with all my omnivore friends, and I'm going to order this thing. And like, it was so like to your point. I come from hippie land. I come from lentils and beans and rice and quinoa, right? I'm like, you know, your palate knows when something's like this is
right.
This is weird. This isn't right. You know, even texture, because even like TVP and like some of the stuff at the Asian markets where it's like just soy stretch, like you know that the underlying flavor,
you can taste through it.
You can taste through it, right? But then we got to this Impossible Meat Beyond Burger situation. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I actually had to ask, like, are you sure? They're like, yeah, I'm sure. Like, they double confirmed. I was like, because it was just like, it was too real. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, like my body was like, no, like, do not do this. Like, which was weird if you think about it. Like if I'm supposed to be eating this and my body's like, I need this. My body was like, no, stop. Figure out what this is because I don't want this. Like, which is very, very, it was very primal. Then I had to like tell myself like, no, go for it. You're okay. It's plants, you know? And like, but you know, to me, it's a gateway to your point. It's like, I need my methadone. You know, I need my semblance of my old life before I just full on start composting my pocket. You know, like, and like,
well, that's why I'm desperately trying to find a cheese recipe I can make that's gonna come somewhere close to, you know, the real thing.
The real casein, the thing that actually makes the opium like chemicals. There's no way unless you put opium inside your cheese. Like how are you gonna do that? You're gonna start maybe use poppy seeds.
I know a guy.
Yeah. Because that's the thing about the casein is that it does cause an opiate like for your receptors. It's a very similar chemical reaction that happens. So you're like you're gonna need a guy. You're gonna need a guy. So whatever that's gonna come through. So I'm not against them. And then I read this book when I was like struggling to gain weight, like I'm battling this autoimmune disease, and I've made this decision that I don't really want to die. I want to grow and be strong. And I'm plant-based. Like, what do I do? And all these athletes that are plant-based, they're like ultra marathon people. There's a few bodybuilders, but not like super strong, big people, you know? Now there are, but then there wasn't. And there's this guy, he wrote, it's called Vegan Meathead. It's a great book. And in there, he's just like, basically eat this stuff that's like Satan to the level that another pro athlete would eat like chicken or beef to, you know, because you're eating at a level that's much higher than a normal person would ever be, right? So like, go ahead and dive there. And that's when I was like, I realized that this is a way to get more protein. I'm through Satan. I use Satan a lot through Vital Wheat Gluten. I make batches of
not the Prince of Darkness, but the gluten-based
not the
protein.
Prince of Darkness. I mean him too, but I mean mainly Satan. But every time people hear like Satan, they're like, yeah, Satan. So
I told you vegans were evil, man.
they're evil. They're pure evil. But it's such a clean source. If you can handle gluten, if you're not, you don't have celiac disease or something,
Yeah. Or get the organic stuff, because there's a lot of things that the pesticides are actually what's causing the celiac. Which
exactly.
I'm not a big glyphosate guy.
But
Not a big fan.
let's get back. I'm going somewhere with this.
Please.
And it's going to go back to your lab growth thing and profitability. What if I told you the soils we have are completely depleted of nutrients and minerals that will go into the plants? What would we do? And we can't get these nutrients and things into the animals anymore because it's not in our soils. So how? Because that's where we're at. We are literally at depleted soil levels here. And as a corporation, I'm Monsanto. I gotta get this cow big, and I gotta make sure that American stays at this weight. And I'm not getting the nutrients on the ground anymore. I can make it in the lab.
Interesting.
That's fundamentally where I went with it. I was
And the capitalist edge of making money with this, what they want to do is obfuscate sort of the way that the whole system works, to siphon out as much money as possible. Instead of just having one farmer sell one cucumber to one guy, they're like, no, but we own the land partly, or we own the seeds, or you have to buy our chemical fertilizers, or lease the tractors from John Deere, or any number of these things. And then we also get subsidies, and then we split it with the farmer. And so all these kind of moving parts is what keeps them able to do that. And I think lab-grown meat would be one of these things.
No.
Don't look behind the curtain, because we've got this whole operation that you won't understand, but we're going to make meat, and the government's going to subsidize it, and we're going to charge whatever.
Look, you're seeing it firsthand. The German farmers are protesting. The French farmers
They're pissed.
They're pissed because they're going to be at the end of the day. These corporations have now owned the seed. They own the land. They own how to make it. They own how to distribute it. They own the average farmer's age is 75 years old, right? 75, bro. You think your grandfather wants to be out there hucking hay so you can eat? No, and nobody's filling his shoes. So, and we have more people that need to eat, and the corporation needs to make money when he was buying from all these farmers. But they're all like, no, I can't do it. You've made this impossibly too expensive. I can't buy your fertilizer seed and your land and your tractor. But they own all that, right? So they're like, okay, look, and now I have soil that's worthless. So now that I don't have to, what do I do? Oh, I have to design and build a new food that was what I was giving to you. And we'll just call it beef, but it's lab-grown, synthesized tissues that have everything you need. So it's like, one is compassionate, one is purely for profit, driven by necessity of an exploited system of monoculture, and this monoculture has decimated farmlands. And so we have to go to the Amazon, chuck it down to get the nutrients out, to feed the cattle. They're tired of it. It's just, they can't sell that story much longer because we're getting more conscious as consumers and more ethical, right?
Yeah.
Supposedly, right? So, I really believe that this is deeper, and it's because of a generational. They're looking 10 years out. They're looking 15 years out, where you and I as consumers are looking 3 years out, maybe.
Yeah.
So, but they got a supply chain issue, and and there's not enough of these people at the market buying organic. They're not.
I was really bummed out too by the insect thing. It's like, that doesn't seem much. Ethically, it's not any better. Cost wise, maybe it's easier to ranch bugs, but in the end of the day, it's. And the other thing is, consumers were never going to want to buy that in the fucking first place.
Oh, but they've hidden it. There's a great little app that you can scan to see if your food has bugs in it. Yeah, no, it's crazy. No, they've hidden it in different nutrient names: bioengineered, fortified. Those are just ways to say that I put maggots in there.
Fortified.
Yeah.
It's been fortified.
Yeah.
Oh, I will say my dog actually eats the fucking vegan black soldier fly food. She has sometimes she has deer. So the dog's not vegan. Shame on her. But she's mostly vegan.
Yeah. I didn't. I'm like this. They're not omnivores. They're carnivores. I'm not gonna fuck with them. I'm gonna I have two adopted Great Danes, so they came from not good places, and they had so many health issues. They still have health issues, and I feel like a dog foot masseuse sometimes because I'm always putting ointments on things. And anyways, elimination diets. Like, I think we're all different, and like we all have to figure out our systems, and just like we're on a giant Earth ship that each system has different. I think we do need plant-based. Majority is great, and they eat a lot of blueberries and vegetables. They do great, but I've gotten down to like single sources of protein, like tilapia that's grown in pools, that's sustainable. Like finding different ways that they can still maintain that carnivore, more raw way of life.
What do you feed them? You cook for them? Or you got a can of stuff? Or
Well, little kibble, because the dietitians for the dogs are like, you got to keep, because you'll be processing livers and kidneys and all this stuff all the time for them, and brains, and like, do you want to get the butchery? Yeah. You're vegan. I'm like, no, I don't. Like, yeah,
I don't. I couldn't cook. We cooked a few times, but we just couldn't keep up. It was too much work.
Yeah, and when I had lands, like I took PETA chickens all the time. I rescued so many chickens, hundreds, if not thousands of chickens. So I kind of did my part when I had land, and I kind of feel like I adopted animals. Like, there's a level of veganism, to your point, that like I didn't go, and that's not having pets. Like, I have, because I look at these shelters, my heart breaks. I'm like, let me do this. Like, I know I'm vegan and I'm just doing all this, but oh my god, it just broke my heart.
Well, well, dude, dogs. You're saying like people that are hardcore vegan shouldn't have pets. Yeah, that's the thing that people say. Fuck that. There, in our society, we don't have a choice. The dogs has two choices: go to the pound, or die in the woods and eventually get caught and go to the pound, or have an owner. We don't have any other choice. So we're making the lesser of two evil choices by caring for him. Just don't beat the little shit and like feed him sometimes.
I feel you. That's where I'm at. That's exactly where I'm at. So I'm glad I'm not on that relevant vegan. Like,
no, I'm not. Like, some you're still supporting the same
weirdo. System. Like, I'm like, dude, like, come on. Like,
decisions got to be made down here, bro. We got to be pragmatic too. We're on a ship, like you say. We got to be pragmatic.
We do, really, really do. We have to close the loop as much as we possibly can. And I tell people, like, I don't shame people for wearing leather and stuff and buying wool. You're closing. That's just the gift wrapping to the present at Christmas. That's all that is, because you wouldn't have that if you didn't have that. So if you stop you won't have that. You know
what? They can't scale up this shit. Like, it's either that or it's polyester. So microplastics or cruelty, pick one. Cotton is the only thing. Is like, oh, it's picked by, poor Asian people or whatever, some other country or whatever. Like, I guess I'll take that one.
Or silk. It's these silk farms, but those, I've been there. They're run by little Muslim kids. They're children running those silk farms. It's crazy, dude.
Messing with those worms or whatever. Is it spiders?
Yeah, it's worms. Yeah, it's a bunch of little worms and caterpillars and butterflies. It's pretty, but you're like, wow, this is amazing fabric you guys are doing. But, Muhammad there, he's like 5?
Yeah.
Woo. And it's just because of the industry.
For kids.
I'm in manufacturing, so that's why I see a lot of things that other people don't see. So my primary career is an industrial designer, and I've flown around the world and looked at all sorts of materials and how things are made and where they're sourced from. And I've tried to do my bit. I got into it to be even more vegan, to change things as best I could to more sustainability. That's why I got into it. I love it. It's one of my favorite passions. But
you have an eye for looking at. You look at something and try to tell whether or not this business or this industrial factory or something that would do something in a different way.
Yeah, I design it as well as figure out how to manufacture it, and then I look at how I want it to perform with the materiality. So it's just like, and then in some instances, the polymers on the petroleum side don't perform as well as the polymers on the plant side. Like cassava root and hemp and
Interesting.
flour is much stronger than a lot of the polymers on the petroleum base. So you get hemp
Wow.
and discarded cassava root and other things to bind in a polymer and do amazing things. Most of the things I 3D print are based off of it. So PLA is an amazing, strong material. Yes, there's some heat issues with it, but I think plastics shouldn't be used in every environment, in every spot. It shouldn't be our go-to material. I think metals, aluminum, higher rate of recyclability. Mining is much more holistic and more sympathetic for the environment than steel or gold or all these other minerals that we put and use. So yeah, in an industrial designer, I get to impact a lot, like not only how it looks, but also how it's made and what it's made out of. And so I pushed plant based as much as I possibly could, from packaging all the way down to the plastics and recyclability, like to be able to pull it apart, to easily just pull it apart, chuck it, this part in the tin bin, this in the plastic bin, or even the plastic bin, the plastics we use, you could have thrown it into the compost bin, and the compost place would have been able to heat it and turn it into compost.
Yeah, so, that's what I was going to ask. Yeah, obviously all this stuff is biodegradable.
All biodegradable. Yeah, it's amazing what we've gotten in the materials world. So the world exists in which we could do so much. We could live in this utopian thing. It's just the consumers are not willing to, or we haven't, let's just say, wealth has not been distributed equally enough for people to everybody pay $25 for a bag of chips. And that's the truth. When $25 for a bag of chips is okay, then we're going to be somewhere, and everybody has money because the person making the chips needs a living wage, and everybody needs a living wage. We need a way that people aren't impoverished anymore, and we get out of this resource tribal, I have, you don't have mentality, and progress into where science and technology has been. It's been here for like 10 years waiting for us to pick it up and run with it. It's just not that we're not, as consumers, demanding it. Which is crazy.
We're getting dumber. Like they keep saying that the IQ scores, they used to test the IQ scores, the Flynn effect, where every decade the IQ of the people, mostly in the West, would go up. I think the study was done in Norway or whatever. But then at some point it peaked. It peaked around our lifetime after the turn of the century, I think, and it started going down. So then officially, according to this thing, we're getting stupider. 60% of Americans can only read at a 6th grade level, something like this.
Yeah, no, we had to get rid of cursive writing because people couldn't read cursive. Like, it's like, that blew me away. I'm like, what? It's a script. Like, that's mind-blowing for me.
That'll keep going away. Everybody's got the phone now, too. I forget it. Cursive writing is just we were the last generation to have to fucking...
We really were. We had to do the loop-de-loops, and everything had to look smooth, and it was an art. It was like your writing was an art, and it showed you who you were as a person. And it's just like, now we truncate words down to 3 letters. And like, this is where Uncle Ted knew. He saw it coming. He's like, stop this, because where this goes is, it's sad. I really thought that man was so fringe for so long. And then once I started reading and seeing, and like, oh my, and then being behind the scenes and being one of the people that he directly was like, I'm the scum. Like, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, whoa, what have I done? Making these products, making these things in the environment, making people's lives better. You think, but it's causing them, their attention spans to get smaller, their ability to process information less. Their ability, you're like, wait, we made it too easy. There was like a tipping point where it's like, oh, it got too easy. Now I don't have. It's like we went to Idiocracy, that movie, and it's just like, how do we steer out of Idiocracy?
It's death by convenience, man. It's we don't have any adversity to go through. What happens when you don't exercise? You get soft, you get weak. The organs that you have don't get any use, and you turn into an idiot.
Yeah,
just
that's why it's
around,
exciting to see these
drooling.
kids protest. See these kids protest. They don't have much. They're resource constrained now. They feel it. They're the first ones to feel it. Not like us. We're the old timers. We get to watch it. But I really see them as like, this is a great moment for us as a society, as a whole. If we could planetarily say humanity is what we all need to be living for, then let's start talking. And like I'm gonna get a little political here. Sorry if this crossed the line. But opening the door to having Trump prosecuted opens the door for others to be prosecuted for war crimes. And then that will stop further war crimes and bombing of nations that don't deserve it for no reason, for profitability. So if we could stop, let's say, Sudan from being annihilated by our missiles unjustly, then who's doing that? Who's writing that order? That goes right up the chain of command. Goes to the top. So if we can stop the top from doing it because of these lawsuits now under stupid real estate stuff that he's gonna get clear of, it opens the door for us to go back and go, look, what you did in Iraq is you're like, sorry, dude. It's called court martial, the capital punishment. Under the cost, you got to die, dude. We got to put you. How do you want to do it? That's more the question. And then it's just like we just go right through the list, and then the next person who's thinking about becoming president goes like, "Whoa, whew, these people will kill me if I." Whew,
if I don't better do a good job. Yeah, that's how a government is supposed to work, for sure.
That is how it's supposed to work. Yes. So you're like, I don't know. Like that's my stance on that whole.
Well, look, it's highly probable that would happen because what the internet is like it turns us into one big hive brain where we kind of are moving. But we have two parts of our brain that are fighting with each other now. But at some point, we're all going to get on board with certain cultural changes and shifts because, especially with geopolitics, like we're not going to be able to fuck with another country without them broadcasting what we're doing directly to the youth of our country, which is happening now. That's exactly what we thought we could get away with giving weapons to Israel so that they could ethnically cleanse Gaza. And we're just seeing the fucking footage from it, and everybody's protesting and everybody's against it. Like everybody who really looks at that, the majority of people go, well, that don't look too good. This is not something I advocate
not picking
for.
Sides. I'm not saying I think it all is bad. I think one of the rants I have is on free Tibet, right? Like we could go down the list of all the places that our little alphabet agencies play around in and cause problems, and there's recourse of human decimation and genocide, and I'm not on anybody's side for any. I'm just on the side of humanity. I really have to say, and I wouldn't want this to happen to Israel. I wouldn't want it to happen to Palestine. I wouldn't want it to happen to New Jersey, New York. I wouldn't want it to happen to Toronto. I wouldn't want it to happen to Tokyo or anywhere else. I think we're humans. I think our greatest ability is to talk, rationalize, come forward, and solve some of the biggest problems that we have. And I think if we can't do that, then what are we worth? Like, what are we worth? And it cores me every time I think about this one because it's just like I really want us to progress, and I see progression all around,
Yeah, I talk about it a lot. I talk about it with my wife. I say, it seems like we make progress, but a lot of times I think we ebb and flow back and forth from times of extreme, uh, oppression, and then we come out of it and we have some kind of more liberal kind of thing. You go from the Middle Ages and then you go into the Renaissance, or if you go from the Victorian age, everybody was like, we went from that to everybody wearing metal underwear to being like, I don't know,
the Kellogg's was they were all going to eat more fiber and live forever. Yeah, no, we've gone. It's gone crazy with all where we've gone and how we've done it. Another one that is always interesting to look at is like when they go, destroy the patriarchy. That it's like, the Queen of England just died. I mean, she ran most of the Western world and her sister, like, a long time. I mean, like, where do you live? And then, like, we have the Inquisitions by Elizabeth. Like, I love the ladies, but let's be real. You guys ran it for a long time. And you ruled over some people with a lot of hard. You did some hard, and then now we're, American empire, whatever, 200 years is nothing compared to those. So you're like, okay, let's put this in context as humans, and let's give it a try. Let's give this. I lean so libertarian. It's like it's like, let's try democracy on a level of like do no harm for everybody, and like as long as you're not killing me, and we progress, and we have a capitalism that like I can benefit from you, you can benefit from me, and there's a mutual exchange of goods or services that allows us to benefit. And somebody's going to have a better air conditioner, and we're all going to want that one. We're all going to reward that thing or person that is giving us that thing. And
that is, it's an optimistic thing, though. It's an optimistic hope that, it's what else are you going to hope for?
We have to. I mean, like it's like North Korea is comical. It's like it's gotten to that level. We're just like, this guy doesn't have lasers. Like we have lasers. It's like, when are we gonna get to the point of like? To my point of like, if this is a spaceship and each area is just a different room, it's just like, when are we going to open the doors to all the rooms and we just walk around and be like, we stop this tribal crap that is resource driven when there's plenty of resource. We just got to be smart about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just hilarious. It's utterly hilarious.
I'm hoping the hive brain is what does it. We all see each other's dirty laundry, and so we just say, okay. We see where our fucking plastic bottles end up in some river in the Amazon or something, that we understand the right thing to do. Because I always knew that people won't do the right thing. If you put it in front of them and say, don't do this, they won't do it. But if it's easy for them to understand and easy to avoid, they'll avoid the bad thing. But if it's obfuscated and it's like, that's going to poison some kids over there, as long as I don't see it, I don't care. If it's in our face, I think that's the greatest hope we have.
Yeah, this technology thing is a blessing and a curse, like the TikTok ban, right? Like to your point, they had a way to get away from the propaganda machine that's here that was legalized by Obama. So Obama legalized weaponized propaganda for the first time against the American people, made it legal, and it's still here, and it's called, Meta, and they're not going to let go of it. And that's the greatest thing that happened with the TikTok thing was like you had a backdoor into the American culture and youth that allowed them to see things just like we did to China with Facebook and things that it was like the direct opposition to us and what we did. And it was genius. Unfortunately, it's banned, and we're going to go into some weird land of totalitarianism of information like Canada's seeing and parts of the EU are seeing. So it gets dystopian really quick if you give it to government, and I go back to this youth right now. I think Gen X is going to be driving the boat here, and they're going to be yelling at us. And I don't know any Gen X people that aren't cool. Like, even when I've been in the middle of nowhere, our generation has been through it. We saw rotary telephones. We had to get up and change the television channel. Now these kids have to think about it, and it changes. Like, we were the gap between the old and the new, and we are now beholden to the new, and the old we know did not serve us, and so we're like, I feel like I'm looking at them like, all right, let's see how this rolls, because that didn't work, and we as the Gen Xers built this. We built the internet. We built it. The boomers didn't do that.
Yeah.
So you're like, we built this platform for you. We let you at it. It's now thriving. It's a part of your brain. Like, now what do? We made this monster. And honestly, I'll tell you, in 1990, that was my first job. I worked in Netscape internet browsers. So
Holy shit.
Yeah. So like we did this for them. And it's just like, okay, now that they've been indoctrinated to it, what do they want us to do? What is the most progressive, open-minded group of Americans ever existed? What do they want? It sounds like they want injustice gone. They're the more vegan than they've ever been. They're more equal rights than any generation. I mean, they're breaking down things that I even are like, oh my God, I don't know if we break that down. You know, like, should we break that down? Like, but they're like, no, break it down. You know, so it's really exciting that we might have a huge body of people that doesn't believe in this billionaire class, that there's even a bridge to there. So this resource constraint of which you talk about, the cause of the impetus of great change, of these catalysts, is here. It's literally here. And now we have like an almost Arab Spring going on because nobody has jobs. We have hyperinflation. We can't afford food. And you've given them something to polarize on in an election year? Are you high? There's something to color revolution, like, ready to go. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like prime.
This is the seeds. It's the seeds of regime change is what is going on. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you ask me, there's a lot of alphabets running around.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and the news coverage has been so wild to try to take away everything they could possibly take away from these kids. And make them out to be monsters.
Well, yeah, because they're making it. They're polarizing a minority that has the majority of the control. So they're gonna be black sheep. They unfortunately, this is kind of my point of, like, we didn't really care about Tibet because of the cell phones. We're not going to care about Palestine unless you blow it up past Palestine. You have to blow it up. You have to go to that next thing. You have to level up, like, bring that as the thing to level us up into humanitarian talk, or it's going to be shut off, because the let's say the people, the puppet masters, the controllers of industry, they need this to go away. They need this to go away. So
yeah,
they will make it go away. So
makes you want to do it even more. I say, we're obviously pissing somebody off because they're pulling every string in every office and every TV news, Meta, everybody. We got to stop these people.
Yeah, because they are. That's what I said. If you look at those boards of directors and you look at the company owners, you get to a minority group that owns and runs these things, and they don't want this here. And it's kind of like how Hershey's doesn't want us to talk about child slavery and cocoa. So we're like, it will go away, and we're going to be okay with it because we get something out of it, and that could be Facebook or not, or Meta, or Google, or whatever. We are rewarded. We're given something that's going to be either a distraction in the positive or a distraction in the negative. And I honestly believe if what we'll see is the eastern side there explode, because Putin is not backing down. He's only gone stronger. He's fortified his military by 15% more? So his military is 15% larger than it was before Ukraine. He has more money than he did before Ukraine. His military is now primed to our operations. And
he's got an 80% approval rating with Russians. They love him.
Right. They love him. The economy's booming.
Dude, he has brought those people out of poverty the last 3 decades, while America has put people in poverty for 3 decades.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Just stating facts. I'm not like a big Kremlin guy or anything. They always say, "Where's your check from Putin?"
No, I wasn't until I saw a lot of the policies. But then there's other policies like the not equal rights policies that are atrocious. So
that sucks.
It sucks. It's like you can't have.
That's when you step back and you say, "Oh yeah, humans, they're doomed. What the fuck do I care? I get that. No matter who they are, what part of the world, gender, everything. That's the one beautiful thing. That's very woke. Is the fact that everybody's terrible. That's the one thing everybody says.
Yeah, but it's like that first rule of Buddhism, like samsara, life is suffering. Like understand that first.
Yeah.
If you just understand everybody's an asshole and they only care about their own shit, you're levels ahead. And then you're like, okay, now how do we get everybody on the same? I give a shit about this. That's the goal, And I think that's the power of communication. I think that's the power of movements, and I think that's the power of even veganism and out of these micro movements for equality. Because at the core, veganism is about equality for all. At any sentient being needs equality. They need freedom. They have rights that are given to them by the creator, just like anybody else. If you believe in a creator or not a creator, you're atheist. They have the same rights of freedom to wander around and not be molested like you do as a bee does. We need to stop doing that. So it's just like I going back to the political thing and the distraction that will get us away from it, they're going to push us into World War III. The Great Generation is gone now. They cannot warn about nuclear war. They cannot warn. They cannot scream loud enough anymore. They're gone. They're gone. They're dead. There's like 1 or 2 World War II people around. Where are they?
Yeah.
They know what World War is. They know what it is. Vietnam is a proxy war. We've been in proxy war since Vietnam, and we haven't stopped. Right? But we have not pulled in Germany. We have not pulled in China. We have not pulled in everybody on a front. And I tell you that front is going to be going down because they can't have Russia banning GMOs. They can't have Russia going to a gold standard. They can't have BRIC. They cannot. It fundamentally breaks the system in which the West, anything, Ukraine to us is built on oil.
Yeah.
We are built on petroleum. And to go against that petrodollar, let's just look at what happened to Libya. Let's just look at anybody who tries to go against that. Look at the guys who try to even make water-powered cars. They're dead in 2 days. Don't fuck around with petroleum. And like, there's a beauty to be had, though, at this regional thing and geopolitical, is that Saudi Arabia has so much power in all of this. And you're not thinking that right now, are you?
Well, I knew it. I know Qatar, all these places, they are coming up faster than we actually expect.
That's when Trump went around, or work around the world, and they brought everybody, they held that globe. Do you remember that picture?
Yeah.
And he had the Saudis, they had them in Saudi Arabia. It was like
holding hands.
Yeah, holding hands.
They love to hold hands over there. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's because we have no strategic oil reserves anymore. If we woke up tomorrow in the West and basically the Middle East said barrel oil's $200, we would implode. We'd implode in less than 48 hours. It would all come crumbling down. And so that is the point. Like without that, we have nothing. Like, where are we going to gold mine? We can't go into South America and gold anymore. There's barely any gold here in the United States. Where are we going to get this thing that everybody's trading on? That we already gave away because we traded it for digital currency, for this this inflated dollar that we have. I mean, it's so fundamental that if you look at the geopolitical situation, that we have to appease Saudi at the same time as appeasing Israel. But the geopolitical situation, the people are like, fuck all of you. So what do they have to do? They have to make something so grand, either in the positive or the negative, that distracts us. And they don't like, I'll tell you right now, Lockheed Martin doesn't like parades.
Who's Lockheed Martin?
Lockheed Martin?
Oh, I thought you said Joaquin Martin. I was
No,
is that like it's a 70s folk singer, or
he's cool too. I don't know him.
Yeah,
but, you know,
Lockheed Martin. Yeah,
Raytheon,
absolutely.
Yeah, Raytheon. They don't like parades. You know, they like the other thing.
Yeah, they don't need people talking about it and protesting about it.
That's the fine line. Boeing's in a world of hurt right now, so they could totally use some military contracts to make some bombers. They don't need military contracts to make parade floats of peace and unity. So let's be real here. And those are the biggest lobbyists in the world. So we got to be careful. There's a thin line. It's like it's very interesting. But I have faith. I know you're pessimistic nihilist. Like, fuck them. We're going there. I still feel like they're gonna. I'm like, somehow on this conspiracy blue beam, like, no, the alien invasion. But no, I don't know what they're doing with this alien thing either, which is interesting. Which we're all just kind of like, eh.
Wait, illegal aliens or outer space aliens?
Outer space aliens. Like, in the past 3 years, we basically said that there's aliens amongst us.
Oh, man, like, dude. People were talking about it in fucking like Congress. They had to testify before Congress. Like, did you see the aliens? And people were like, I cannot say, but maybe I did see some aliens. Dude, they did this in the 90s. They leaked all these documents to like freak people out. I think that was I've heard that the UFO thing was a distraction to try to get people to think about something else.
Yeah, no,
and the last time that they... Well, maybe. I mean, but the last time that they talked about it, there was obviously some other shit going on.
Right. There's always something going on. My point is, like, I'd rather have that candy than the other candy, you know, the war candy. Like, maybe that's just me being...
Well, when are you going to come back? You going to come back and do this again?
I would love to do this again. This was a lot of fun. I think the dichotomy that we have is good. I like...
Good team.
Yeah, I do. It's funny. I had a lot of laughs. And you got me thinking. Yeah. Like, I went nihilist on it, but I would love to come back anytime. And thank you so much for this. It was a great discussion.
Good balance. Covered a lot of ground. I got some optimism too. It's not all doom and gloom. There are some things that are pure, you know, like a dog, or like going for a walk, or good food, or whatever, dancing to good music or something. Life's not all bad, you know.
No, life's beautiful. Art's beautiful. Like, human creativity is beautiful. And then nature, too. Just like seeing nature sometimes is just beautiful. But yeah, I had one question, though. Like,
talk it to me.
The homeless romantic. The homeless romantic.
Yeah.
Is this like Is this like the hobo love thing, where like you are homeless until you're in love, and then you know, like that? Where did this name come from?
When I was 21, I left home. I went to San Francisco with no money, and I spent the next 15 years just like living in my car, hitchhiking around America, hopping freight trains, staying in squats, getting fucked with by the police, shoplifting, you know, being a petty criminal, playing accordion at truck stops for money, trying to get to New Orleans, being a street musician in New Orleans, being a street musician in San Francisco. Went to Mexico for a while. Never had a residence, never even had a bank account most of the time. And we just sort of panhandled gasoline to get into our van and just drove it around and just lived in it spent some time in Northern California trimming weed. Back when you could make good money doing that.
So much money doing that.
Yeah, which was great. Seasonal work. We'd always come back, and then in the winter go to New Orleans and go through Mardi Gras. And then in summer we go up to Buffalo or Vermont and hang out in some squats up there. There's abandoned buildings everywhere. We just stay there, and it was just like constantly moving, constantly on the run. It was taxing, man. It's crazy shit happened. I went to Mexico for no reason at all. Drove around Mexico for like 6 months and got really sick. Saw a guy get murdered in front of me.
Jesus.
It was wild as shit, man.
Yeah.
But it all beat what happened to everybody I know back home. Like everybody I know back home is fucked. Like a lot of people in prison, a lot of people are dead, a lot of people are kids and unhappy, high on antidepressants.
Yeah, all my friends are dead.
My cousin killed his whole family. I grew up with my cousin. He joined the military and like didn't talk to the rest of the family after some point. He like wouldn't see his dad on his deathbed, but joined the military, became super like weird. Had a family with this girl. Had 4 kids that were all differently able. I think they were autistic or something. 3 out of 4 of them were autistic. I think they got some bad medical news, and they decided that they would just kill the whole family in the garage with the carbon monoxide. And I found out by reading it on the news. They show up at his house. There's him, his wife, 4 kids, and 2 cats, all in the front seat of their car in the garage. And that was a few years ago. And I'm still like reeling over that because I smoked weed with him for the first time, and like
Yeah, there's people, their memories. Yeah, there's history. Yeah.
Well,
Crazy.
even the older brothers, the people that are like a little older than you that teach you how to do stuff. Yeah. You're always a little. But I don't know. Yeah. So anyway, that's my life story, and I'm sticking to it. So the homeless romantic's a real thing, and I had an album where I recorded all my songs about being weird and poetically depressed and during that time. And there's some fun ones, like we used to sing a song called "I Hope They Take Food Stamps in Heaven," and typical crust punk kind of folk music. But yeah, and so that was my whole thing, is like the people that I met doing that was really inspiring to me. And then the fact that here was a bunch of people that were thrown under the bus of society that weren't cool enough to like have a house or have any food, but some of them were so talented musically or artistically that it was just, those are my people in a lot of ways. I know now they're some of the most contentious, fucking annoying people on earth too, but I love their spirit, and I still do. To this day, I don't shower as much as I used to, or I don't worry about little things because I know that you don't need a lot to be happy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you get to a point of resources don't matter. It's more about experience and connection and spirit than it is what do I have. Like, and full circle. I would love to talk more in the future about this, but like, when do the billionaires have enough? Like, when do you have enough?
That was my philosophy, was like, I understood that I had a lot of fun sitting on my ass on Maiden Lane in Union Square, sleeping behind some trash cans with my friends. And we had laughed so much. At first we were all depressed. We were like, we don't have any place to go. We'll just sit behind these trash cans and maybe and after a while we started drinking whiskey and singing songs behind these trash cans like fucking Oscar the Grouch, like a Sesame Street routine. And pretty soon we're laughing. And I realized joy and happiness is something that's quite easy to get if you just need to know the recipe.
You just know the rest. And you know what's so poignant about that is like Maiden Lane and Union Square. That's where like Versace and Gucci and like some of the most expensive stores in the world are right there, and you're just like finding joy.
I'm not going up to the Tenderloin, man. I'm going to the nice part of town where nobody's at night. It's like a bunch of stores and some trash cans, and that's it. Just up the street, there's like crackheads. No, but I seriously, I used to sleep in the trash cans on Maiden Lane all the time, and then I had somebody one time come up and like grab my feet while I was sleeping, and that I never slept there again. That was fucked up, man. I woke up and somebody was just like, "Hey." And I was like, dude, this is my spot. Get out of here. I just started kicking this guy.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
what
man.
a great story.
Yeah, anyway, so next time I'll tell you more hobo stories, but yeah.
I would love it. Dude, I would love it. So it's real. That's absolutely real. Because I was like, there's not much homeless stuff on your account. And like my uncle, like I have a big soft spot because like my uncles were homeless and my dad was homeless. And I was like, homeless romantic. And I'm like, look at your stuff.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, it's more geopolitical, you know? I'm like, where's the homeless part? You know, like, but now it makes sense. Now
right here, baby, right here. I'm the
full circle.
Yeah. I'm like debating whether if I write a book, will I get arrested or will people even want to read it? Like, but I have all these
7 years, you're good. You know.
Okay.
So give it 7
statute
years.
Limitations.
Yeah, just like 7 years is good.
Yeah.
I'm writing shit, changing names, but this happened. All right, sir.
I might. All right, bud. Talk to you soon, everybody. I want Adam X Lupus. Check him out on Instagram. Hell of a guy. Here, we'll sign off to everybody first. Sign off to everybody in TV land. We're going to talk right after. You guys behave yourselves. Go vegan.